Have you ever been reading an ancient text, maybe something like the Bible, and you come across two stories that are supposed to be about the same thing, but they're just different? Well, today we're going to look at an incredible tool that helps us understand exactly why that happens. And let's start with maybe the most famous example of all. Seriously, if you've ever really listened to the Christmas story or read the Gospels of Matthew and Luke back to back, you've probably scratched your head and asked this exact question. The two accounts of Jesus' birth feel like they're telling completely different tales. I mean, the differences aren't small, right? In Matthew's version, you've got these royal magi, these wise men, following a star and bringing super expensive gifts to a house. But then you flip over to Luke, and suddenly it's all about humble shepherds, a sky full of angels, and a baby lying in a manger. So what gives? To figure this puzzle out, we have to stop thinking about these stories as simple newspaper reports. We need to look at them through a totally different lens. And here's the big shift in thinking. What if these differences aren't contradictions? What if they're not mistakes at all? What if, instead, they're intentional clues, like fingerprints left at the scene by the authors, trying to tell us something really important? This brings us to the key idea for this whole explainer. We need to start seeing these ancient authors, not just as writers, but as editors. Editors with a very specific agenda. Okay, so there's a fancy academic name for this tool. It's called redaction criticism. I know, it sounds a little intense, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It's just the study of how an author, like Matthew or Luke, acted as an editor. They chose which stories to include, they put them in a certain order, and they tweaked the details, all to get their own unique message across. So, how do you do it? It's a really straightforward three-step process. First, you just put the similar stories right next to each other. Step 2, you pinpoint all the differences. What did one guy add? What did he leave out? What words did he change? And then you get to step 3, the most important question of all. Why? Why did the editor make that specific change? What were they trying to accomplish? All right, now that we've got our new detective tool, let's circle back and finally crack our original case, the mystery of the two very different Christmas stories. Let's start by looking at the choices Matthew, the editor, makes. He zooms in on the Magi, who, remember, are rich foreigners, not Jews. They bring these kingly gifts, and Matthew kicks off his entire book with this massive family tree that links Jesus all the way back to the great King David and to Abraham. You starting to see a pattern here? Yeah, it's pretty clear what Matthew's doing. He's editing all his source material to paint a very specific picture of Jesus. For him, Jesus is the royal Messiah, the king that was promised in all the ancient prophecies. And by bringing in those magi, he's shouting that this king isn't just for the Jewish people, he's for everyone. But now let's look at Luke's editorial desk. He makes completely different choices. He focuses on shepherds, who were basically at the bottom of the social food chain back then. He puts the birth in a stable, a humble, kind of dirty place. This focus on the poor, the marginalized, that's a theme Luke comes back to again and again and again in his writing. So Luke's message, well, it's totally different from Matthew's. By carefully choosing these details, he's painting a portrait of Jesus as a savior who comes for the little guy, the underdog, the people society tends to forget about. And when you see it laid out side by side like this, it just pops. It becomes so obvious. Matthew and Luke weren't just taking dictation. They were shaping their stories, acting as editors, to give us two very different, but equally important, theological portraits of Jesus. One's a king for all nations, the other's a savior for the outcast. And trust me, this isn't just a Christmas thing. Once you know what you're looking for, you start seeing these authorial fingerprints all over the place. Let's take a quick look at another one. Okay, so think about the story of Jesus entering Jerusalem, Palm Sunday. In Mark and Luke, Jesus rides on one animal, a colt. But check out Matthew. He makes this tiny but really weird change. He says Jesus rode on a donkey and a colt. He also sticks a direct quote from the Old Testament in there that the other guys leave out. Why on earth would he do that? Well, this is why. This is the prophecy he quotes. Zechariah 9:9 mentions both a donkey and a colt. So Matthew, staying true to his big theme, literally edits the story to make it match the prophecy perfectly, putting both animals into the scene. You see, it's another one of his fingerprints. It's just one more clue that proves Matthew's unique purpose as an editor. More than anyone else, he is laser-focused on showing how every little thing in Jesus' life was a direct fulfillment of prophecy.
So let's pull back for a second and think about the big picture. Why is this so important? I mean, why does thinking about authors as editors actually matter?
Well, here's the big reveal. The Gospels were never meant to be read as one single, flat police report. They are four separate, beautifully crafted portraits of the same person. Each author, acting as an editor, shapes the material to show you what they believe is most important. So the difference is, they aren't mistakes. In fact, they're the whole point. They're features, not bugs.
And that changes everything, doesn't it? It lets us stop asking a dead-end question like, okay, so which Christmas story is the right one? And it lets us start asking a much deeper, much more interesting question. What is the unique and powerful message that this specific author is trying to share with me right now?
And that's really the big takeaway. This isn't just for dusty old texts. This works for almost any story you read. So the next time you see two different versions of the same event, you'll have a tool to look a little deeper. And it leaves us with this final thought to chew on. How does knowing an author's unique purpose change the way you read?